Welcome back to another episode of Cactus Quest. I'm your host Hunter, and in today's episode, I'm back in Arizona, and we're going to be looking at some of the native cactus and succulents of Arizona. And we're right now at a site, kind of a special site actually, because you have Epithelantha mircomeris growing here, along with a couple species of Echinocereus, some Dazzlerians, some Focaria, some agave. It's a pretty cool spot. So we're going to take a look at what's growing here today.
Hi, I'm Mich Pillet, and I'm a cactus biologist at University of Arizona. I also work at Desert Botanical Garden, where I'm the program officer for the Cactus and Succulent Plant Specialist Group. So really what I focus on is conservation. And so going out with Hunter today, we have a chance to look at some of the native cacti and succulents here in southern Arizona. And we're starting our day at a really special site. There's quite a diversity of Echinocereus around in this area as well. So this first one here is a young individual of Echinocereus arizonicus subspecies nigrihorridispinus. This is a slightly more widespread subspecies. There's a more northern subspecies, arizonicus, which is quite threatened. This plant is a little bit better. And so we're at a slightly higher elevation here. And so one really interesting thing about different populations of the same species is that as you go up in altitude, their phenology, so their pattern of when they start to flower, differs. So the higher populations, the higher elevation populations typically start flowering later on in the year. And so it's pretty cold up here, as Hunter could tell you right now. Didn't bring a jacket. But this plant over here has got buds on it, which I'm not even seeing evidence on the other plants quite yet. So,
What color is the flower on this?
This should be a deep magenta. So the other species that this could potentially be confused with superficially in the area is a kind of Echinocereus fenderi subspecies recurvata, but that one has more pink flowers.
Gotcha.
The Echinocereus in the southwestern United States, as well as in parts of the Chihuahua Desert, in many ways they're very, very understudied, and new species are still being described. Well, to this day, there were a couple species published late last year, I believe, from Texas.
Roughly how many species are in the genus at the moment?
Oof, that's a tough question.
I mean, like, loosely.
So I suspect I would ballpark it at about 200.
What? No, 200? All right, so as I had mentioned at this site, which may be surprising to some people watching, but you have Epithelantha mircomeris growing here, which a lot of people kind of consider a Mexican cacti species. But in fact, it also grows here in the American Southwest in Arizona. So you got two of them growing right here, and you can see the kind of like the cracks in the limestone.
So this is, as far as we know, the only site of Epithelantha mircomeris in Arizona. The species is more widespread in New Mexico, Texas, and then parts of northern Mexico as well. And so they're very cryptic plants, so there might be other populations around. This is the only one, this area, that we really know of, and there's not that many plants. There's probably a bunch of reasons for this. One, it could simply be that the species hasn't had enough of a chance to reproduce and establish a larger population, because who knows how long it's been here. But there's also other problems here. So in this area, there's quite a bit of grazing. And so the Epithelanthas at this site only tend to occur in a very, very narrow elevational gradient. And so once you start going further down this hill that we're on, you won't see them. And that's where you start seeing cowpies and so on. So that's a problem for a lot of cacti. And I have in the past seen some corpses here with some evidence of like chunks taken out of them. So Epithelantha mircomeris, as most Epithelanthas, is capable of self-pollination. And so we saw some fruits here earlier. These plants don't have any, but they do have some tiny flower remainders on them that you can tell.
It almost looks like there's like a dried fruit with seeds right there, actually. That black thing?
Yeah, that could be possible. So what's nice on this site too, and the plants are located at the bases of other plants. So there could be two reasons for that. Given the geology of the site we're at, likely the water washes down any seeds that land somewhere where they're exposed. So that's one reason. But also, when fruits are eaten by herbivores, then they're dispersed. And so I'm guessing one of the dispersers of Epithelantha is going to be birds. And so it's possible that a bird might just perch here in a tree while no cotillo, and the seeds might just drop over here and just end up in the cracks. And clearly, just like many cacti, the smaller plants are much more susceptible to climate and hot weather conditions and so on. And so a lot of these plants are really not out in the open and are really just like wedged in between cracks where they do seem to get some shade.
And what is the like highs? How extreme does it get here in terms of heat in the summer at this spot?
So even though it's higher elevation, I think that we end up with like pretty much the same temperatures over here than where I live in Tucson, and so it can definitely go above 100 over here.
It's fucking hot here right now, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So let's look at another plant
Yeah, let's
nearby.
look at some other ones. We found, you know, I'm gonna just yell it out now. We do the little crest quest because we found another one right here. Now, Mich had found this some time ago, and we rediscovered it today. And I would say this is a pretty fantastic looking crest. And this is very similar to that little xeric fern that I found growing in the Mojave recently. I mean, it kind of looks similar. You got like the little fuzzy leaves, but then behind it, the majestic crest. So tell us, what is cresting and what causes it generally? Do you know, or is there something in particular?
So cresting, and the more technical sciencey term is fasciation.
Right.
We don't know very much about it.
Because I know it can be induced through basically traumatizing your plants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damaging the growing meristem, like in any number of ways.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of people even using certain chemicals to induce mutations as well, beyond just physical damage. But there does seem to be a genetic component in a lot of species as well. So some lineages tend to be have a higher susceptibility to forming crests. And so you know, environmental factors might also be a reason. So just extreme heat events could even cause this as well.
What are these little, sorry to be ADD for a second, but what are these little shells? Do you have any idea?
Let's take a look. Yeah, I think just regular snails, you know? I've seen some nice, the reason I found this plant with my friend from Belgium a few years ago is because there was a really beautiful red velvet ant nearby. And that really stood out in the landscape, of course.
You know, the one thing I'm not seeing at this site is very much recruitment.
No.
I haven't seen any seedlings at all. Like no little plants, they're all mature sized plants.
Yeah, and a few years ago I did see some smaller plants. Of course, we might just not have seen them yet, but there's definitely some conservation issues with this species in Arizona. Even though Epithelantha mircomeris as a species, it seems to be doing quite well. This is a very unique lineage, the only one in Arizona, right? So it deserves some protection. And there's not that many plants that we know of. And unfortunately, there has been evidence of poaching here as well in the past. And so we have to be very careful about not disclosing where exactly the site is at. For a crested individual like this, what would be really unfortunate would be seeing that gone, and that's of course a prime target for people. Most cacti, when they reproduce, I would say, and you know, I can't really back this up with data right now, but they reproduce and recruit in pulses. So you'll have a string of years where conditions are not suitable for them to reproduce, but then once in a while you have a really good year.
Right.
And that's when they do really well. So maybe we're just not hitting them in a very good year. Yeah.
They might have a good year and then a bad decade, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's an issue with climate change, which is what I really study, is that beyond changes in average climate, which will you know, affect species, there's also going to be changes that are much more difficult to predict in terms of how the extremes are changing and how the patterns between years are changing. And so even if the average temperature doesn't go up very much, if simply the way the different years vary in their average weather, if that changes, then there might be fewer and fewer opportunities for these plants to recruit during a boom year. Yeah. And that's, that could kill them off pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, with the plants, I mean, what have we seen? Like, for sure, less than 10 plants at this location?
I would say so. I'm sure there's probably some more around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
but,
certainly
yeah.
not insinuating we found all of them, but I mean,
Yeah.
the 1, the 2, 3, 4, like, yeah, I think we've seen about 8. All right, so we're coming down the hill, we're leaving, and I found another one here. This is actually, like, that's a pretty nice sized plant, you know? I don't think I have one that big. That's like bigger than a kumquat, smaller than a golf ball. A startling discovery.
Look what we found.
My God. It's not human. So this is, what is this? What species?
What do you think, Hunter?
Oh, it's Coryphantha. No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it is.
Escobaria.
What? It's got the little furrow above the tubercle.
Escobaria has been switched in and out of Coryphantha for a while.
These motherfuckers. So what, Escobaria?
So this should be Escobaria vivipara.
Really?
So Escobaria vivipara is one of the most widespread cacti in the United States. It goes all the way into the northern United States, comes down here, goes a little bit into Mexico as well. There's certainly regional differences in between the different varieties, but none of them are currently accepted. Some of them tend to stay solitary, others just clump like this. But yeah, in the end, when they're in flower, it's really obvious that they're all the same thing. They have these beautiful, beautiful pink flowers with kind of like frills along the rims. And yeah, recently, a bunch of this stuff has been moved into Pelecyphora. A lot of people disagree. It is properly backed up scientifically, but there are still studies ongoing. So who knows, maybe one day it'll go back to Escobaria.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, I'm looking at this, and this is so, like, this is, I see it, but then also, like, it's on this, I've never seen, like, a clumping on it, ever. I mean, I've seen, the most I've ever seen is, like, a stem with maybe, 2 offsets.
Yeah.
But, I mean, bigger plants that are as big as this, but only single stems. And then what this is doing that is a little bit different, which this would be, I guess, considered like a phenotypic variation, is, you see this? It's basically, like, I don't know if this is just at the growing point and they're going to flatten out at some point, but it's like, it kind of has like centrals.
Yeah.
I'm referring to the central, these spines that stick out.
Yeah, so the variety in this area, again, not accepted, I believe is called Bisbiana, although there's also variety arizonicus. I'd have to double check the range maps to see which is supposed to occur where. But yeah, usually they don't quite have long centrals like this. So we'll have to take a look at the literature here in a minute.
Man, this is like gorgeous.
Yes.
This is an absolutely stunning plant.
Yeah, and it's definitely a very different habitat than where we just were, really. This is, we're more on the flats now, lower elevation again. Much more organics in the soil, the buds.
All right, so the other, that Coryphantha, whatever you want to call it, I have always thought of it as Coryphantha. If it's Escobaria, so be it. Whatever, I'm fine with it, doesn't matter. Don't sweat the small stuff, it's all small stuff. This, on the other hand, is not really small stuff. This is big boy right here. How you doing, big boy? So which one is this?
This is the same species as earlier, but a large individual. This one is in lower elevation, and as you can tell, it's got lots of buds, obviously related to the size, but also the fact that it's probably warmer down here. So looking at this plant now, I'm a little more confident in my identification. The Echinocereus is not really my specialty, but seeing these red buds on them really distinguishes it from Echinocereus fendleri rectispinus, which also occurs in this area. Yeah. So,
nice. What a find, dude. That's crazy. Look at this. It's obviously gotten a lot of rain. I don't know if you can see this right here. The stem is split. This, I think, is the second time I found a cactus in habitat that's split from too much water.
Yeah, it's crazy down here. It's really fresh, clearly.
Yeah. So that's just, I don't know about you, but I'd rather have my cacti split than rot on me,
Oh, yes.
Oh, Lord. All right, there we go. It hooked me. All right, let's keep on. Let's keep it. This is a different type of thorn scrub. All this, is it actually briar? Is that what this is?
No, this is white thorn acacia.
So we're in the grasslands, in the grasslands in southern Arizona. You don't normally think, I see a baby. There's a baby right there, a little one.
Yes, there
Okay,
is.
so this is not, I don't know what you think of, but like you see like the way like I stage my plants, the way a lot of people stage their plants, it's always based on like super dry, rocky, arid, like ultra arid habitats. But this is also cactus habitat right here. And actually it's, aside from the fact that we're on a mound, we're on, you know, an incline here, it sort of reminds me of the habitat for Tumeya papricantha that I saw in and around Belen, New Mexico. And right after we got out of the car, right afterwards, look at this dazzling, beautiful little elegant creature that we have found. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, what we're looking at here, what do you think about those fucking radial spines, you guys? Does that do it for you? Does that do it for you? Besides, this is borderline pornographic for me, if I'm being completely honest. The fact that it's blooming, it really ups the ante. But what we're looking at here is Echinomastus intertextus. And the etymology of the name refers to the fact that the spines are interwoven. You see how they're interwoven and they lay flat against the body? So you could actually like touch this thing and you won't get all stabbed up and poked, which is nice because cactus want to be touched, you know? They want you to touch them. They want you to touch them and leave them where the fuck you found them, but touch them. You got to touch them and love them. And you can see this one's getting ready to bloom. And as we mentioned at the other site that we were just at, I said I didn't really see any recruitment, didn't see any young plants. Right next to these, growing under this little lupin you got right there behind it, you've got a younger plant, which means we got to be ultra careful because there could be little babies scattered. But if there are little babies in there in growth, which these are all growing right now, then you should see bright red little stars on the top of their meristems. I mean, this honestly is, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Like all of those little spines, all that new growth pushing out, the new growth spines are all a different color. And this is one of the things that I actually love about this plant. The new growth looks incredible. And the seedlings, when you have a seedling of these things, they look insane. So hopefully we'll find some more. I would love to see these with the blooms completely open, but that is just so geometrically satisfying. Oh God.
Seems like this is one of your favorites over here, Hunter.
Yeah, dude. Look, there's another one. It's got blooms too.
Wow. Yep. Exactly.
So talk to me, Mich. Now,
Well,
is this an Arizona endemic?
I believe so. Echinomastus intertextus is limited here. I don't think it goes down into Mexico. I'm not 100% certain, but this is exciting. I've never actually been here when these plants have been in flower. Definitely the flowers is a fairly easy way of telling an Echinomastus. They don't really look like anything else. And Echinomastus is kind of taxonomically confusing and we don't really know where to place it quite yet.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we got to work on.
Look.
And you'll see lots of cow pies over
Wait,
here
I just
as
saw
well.
it. Where did it go? I lost it. No. Right here. Look.
I've never seen them in flower here before.
Oh my God. Dude, I feel like we should hang out here for a little bit.
Yeah,
until they open.
Look at that one. They're a lot easier to spot this way, that's for sure.
That's without a doubt.
One here too.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if you just look around, you can start to see them.
Absolutely. That is one. No, I think that's an Escobaria, that one. Yeah, that's an Escobaria.
Let's take a gander at it. Oh yeah, that's definitely us. That's what we just saw.
Yeah, that's Escobaria vivpara. So, but there's another one to your left.
And so what's interesting about that, you got the Escobaria vivipara here, and
Right
they're not
next to them, to the
they're not
Echinomastus.
hybridizing as far as anybody knows.
No, I think they're not closely related in that way. But something, you'll see a lot of cow pies over here too. And so I've definitely seen specimens that were kicked up and half eaten as well, which is really unfortunate.
Beautiful.
So there is some off-roading that goes on here, and that definitely negatively impacts the plants.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, if they're growing, they may get lucky if they're growing kind of, you know, next to a rock and the thing drives over the rock and it sort of spares it, but
Absolutely.
I mean, I did a video with the guy Luke at an ACEC for Sclerocactus polyancestris, the yellow spine form.
Ah, nice.
In Hellendale.
Yeah.
And we didn't find any, actually. But
yeah.
we did end up finding some on a second trip. And it's funny, they were right next to the car.
Yeah, that's often how it works out. Like with scleros especially, there
Look at
seems
this.
to be like crazy dynamics in between years.
You got these darling little. Look at that. Isn't that cute?
Take a beautiful snapshot here of this cow pie over here.
Is there any mushrooms growing out of it?
No, not this time. Last time we found some, they were a lot fresher.
We have a beautiful cowboy.
See, what you have here is a little tiny seedling. You see, it's a baby cow pie. Hey,
Oh,
so
really?
look at here. This is like
You have a
beautiful,
thing to collect
beautiful
here?
habitat. What do we have? You got Mammillaria hyderi with the fruits going crazy. Let's taste them. My dominant hand. There we go. There's a little aftertaste. Like it wants to be sour, but it can't be.
It's not.
Yeah.
Weird.
Like it wishes it was sour. There's your botanical description on the flavor of the fruit.
It's kind of, it's really nice. It's clearly rained here very recently, and
This
so
thing is looking beefed up.
yeah, the haterites are often really difficult to spot in these grasslands, but after the rains, they really push out of the soil like that. And so this is also a prime season for them to then set fruit, because the little things that want to disperse that fruit will see it really well.
You got buds.
Yeah, I do.
There's buds in it too.
Let's not skip over the Cylindropuntias here. Give them some love as well. This is Cylindropuntia.
Mich loves
Oh, yeah.
choyas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know me, dude. I'm an anti-glockid crusader. You know, I got the school groups going against glockids, moms and dads against glockids.
This is Cylindropuntia spinosior, and that it is now considered a subspecies of the really widespread imbricata that you see all over Texas.
Okay.
The fruits on it are absolutely gorgeous, and they stay on the plants for a long time. Another interesting thing that you'll see on the stems is you'll see these weird like black exudates. So the plant gets damaged, often due to a parasite or a bug or something like that, and they'll kind of press some of their plant juices outward in order to form these exudates to kind of remove the pest. Doesn't always work.
I will give it to you, dude. They do actually. The contrast of
Yeah.
the purple with the yellow, you know, as a Los Angeles native, you know, it just kind of reminds me of the Lakers, you know, and although I'm not a sports guy, it just always reminds me of home. So this is Echinocereus riggidissimus, which is the Arizona rainbow hedgehog.
Yeah, this is Echinocereus riggidissimus, subspecies riggidissimus. And they definitely have that like reddish pattern to them as well. Not quite as intensely as subspecies rubispinus
Now
from
that
Mexico.
only occurs in Mexico, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as I know, yeah. So these plants get really, really big. I don't know if rubispinus gets quite as big. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of large specimens left here because the cows like to eat them.
That's incredible. Well, I mean, sort of like the intertextus, you know, the spines are very much like pressed against the body. And actually this one feels like, it's almost like touching Velcro.
There's an Echinomastus right there, so they grow right next to each other.
Let's take
This
a
one's
look.
got some flowers on it. And the flower actually looks a little different on this one, like a little paler, yeah.
Yeah, they're very similar. Look at this. Look at, you got a little euphorbia growing in there too. Tiny little thing.
This is a younger Cylindropuntia spinosior or imbricata spinosior. Gorgeous plant. Clearly, I would say that it's clearly a seedling. And the color on this, the stems are still quite green, but the spines themselves are this beautiful like purple. Like, how can you not love them?
I mean, I like seeing them where they are.
Oh, this one, I bet
They're never going to come in the greenhouse.
touch this one. It's just as great as Echinomastus.
No.
Oh, beauty.
Really?
Yeah, go for it.
That didn't stick to you?
No,
Is this where that one's different somehow?
no. I just, I have that magic feel. The Fingerspitzengefühl.
Well, the hater eye or what? This.
The hater eye.
It's like eerie.
Look at that cow. I was like, what the fuck?
All right, I just fell down the fucking hill a little bit. No big deal. What are you gonna do? Oh man, yeah, this is right here. This is the shit I love about cacti. Like, look at it. I don't know what happened to it. It rotted. It got burnt. You know, fucking cow ate some of it. But that you got stems that are still cranking.
Yeah.
You even got new stems coming off the stem that looks totally dead.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Coryphantha recurvata.
This is the only population of Coryphantha recurvata that is found in the United States. They do range down into Mexico. This population, you'll see some healthy individuals, but then also a lot of individuals that are growing out of like old dead stems because of fire damage. So the fire regime definitely changes because of climate change. So these populations aren't really used to burning this way, but
Right.
it seems like most individuals make it through it. There's another spot that, not on this ledge, but on another ledge that we're not going to, where we've definitely seen a lot of evidence of plants having been dug up in the past, like these massive clumps.
Yeah.
That's really regretful because they're not gonna make it. They don't root very deeply, so even if you dig them up, the roots are very widespread and you're not getting all of that mass.
Right.
So this is definitely the largest Coryphantha species. I don't know if it's the largest one in a genus, but it definitely, I would say, is in Arizona and probably the United States.
Nice clump. Dude, I can't believe how big these clumps are. They look so healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly there's been some rain over here. I don't see many recruits, but you know, that...
You got a lot of flowering, multi-headed plants, so like when they bloom, they should produce seed. Do you know when they bloom?
Yeah, so that's a little further early summer, I believe, and then the fruits, you'll see those towards end of summer. They take quite a while to develop, if I remember correctly, like sometimes sitting on a plant for several months.
There's also another interesting succulent growing here, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so let's not overlook the caudiciforms, I suppose. So this is Erythrina flabelliformis, right next to a completely dead Coryphantha recurvata, where you can see the fire damage. And so this Erythrina, or coral bean, yeah, it's not in leaf right now. So it kind of like looks very nondescript, right? But you'll see the fruits, the seeds around here quite often, and they're pure red. And in order to germinate, typically they need some form of scarification. In fact, I think there's a seed right there. So let's take a look.
Oh yeah.
Looks like a little bean, right?
Sure does.
Yeah. Pretty plants, get pretty big.
They're all over the place too. Like here's another one. I never even heard of this.
And the bark looks really nice too. It's like a deep brown.
Are these in cultivation at all?
Yes, they are. Yeah, I've seen seeds available in the past, for example, at the Mesa Garden.
Our glory and our uniqueness and why we are as we are is because we are a plant-animal symbiotic species.
All right, so we've been searching and searching and searching. We're trying to find Coryphantha robustispinus. Is it spinus?
Robustispina.
Robustispina. You know, I like to change things up. You can see why it's called that, although this is a dead specimen here. But all is not lost because there's new life. So we finally found it, and we found two little seedlings here. And this is called the Pima County pineapple cactus?
Pima pineapple cactus, yeah.
Pima pineapple.
Yeah.
All right, tell me about this little beast.
So there's several subspecies. This is subspecies Robustispina, and so this subspecies is actually federally listed as endangered. So it's listed under the Endangered Species Act. It's a big problem with this species here because we're really in an area where there's a lot of mining going on, and so luckily with it being listed, there's lots of loopholes that they have to deal with in order to do anything with this sort of habitat. So the plants are at least protected to an extent. However, there does seem to be quite a bit of mortality with this species, as you can see, and it's very sad. The other problem is poaching with these guys. They do get dug up. And additionally, in terms of ecology, what's really interesting is that jackrabbits seem to be one of the main dispersers of the seeds.
Really?
Yeah, and I've heard reports, and I've never really looked into this, that Actually, the seed typically germinates better when digested by some of the dispersers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one of the few species of cactus where, because of the fact that when mines do come in and they have to move these plants, they can't just kill them. There's been some experiments with moving these guys and replanting them. And very unfortunately, the adults, when you replant them, they don't typically make it. The babies, however, seem to do really well over here. I'm surprised by how good looking they are.
Yeah, they do look quite nice.
Yeah, so it'd be nice if we could find another adult.
It's
Must be
interesting.
around.
It's interesting too. Like if I'm just looking at these, because this is the first time I've ever seen seedlings of this plant.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like, it's the spines. Focus. There we go. So the spines of the young plant compared to the old plant, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how vicious these things are. Like they are very thick, very sturdy, and very hooked.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see how they evolve into their grown selves. Yeah, let's see if we can find another one.
Yeah, and something I just noticed too, I had no idea, on the seedlings the spines are straight, whereas on the adults you've got that central hooked spine on it. Yeah.
The way in which we existed until 10,000 years ago was in a very tightly bound symbiotic relationship with plants. And in return for this mysterious connection opened up